What's the first segment? How many minutes?
We are 11, 11, 11, and 10.
11. All right. Okay.
All right.
It's the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, Realtor magazine, and many other national publications. He's been on Fox News, ABC, and NBC. He's endorsed by Barbara Corcoran, Sean Hannity, and Glenn Beck. It's a truly amazing story. Industry leaders have dubbed him the real estate whiz kid. Here's Blake Sloan and the Blake Sloan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Blake Sloan here. Brand new show, the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Missed last week. I was actually in Houston, Texas. Glenn and I were talking about that a minute ago. I had a mastermind where not all the top, a bunch of the top real estate team leaders and company owners across the country met, obviously because it was central. And we met and just went through our businesses, what's happening, and really kind of gave me some insight what's happening across the country in larger cities, bigger metropolitan areas, California, Florida, the Northeast, and really some great valuable information that we have. And we'll talk about some of that in the show. Back in the office this week, been grinding all week, but a brand new show for you all this weekend. Tons of great stuff. One thing we'll talk about is the market numbers, right? The overall macro market numbers. Last week, we talked about the micro market, but we'll really just look at, hey, what's happening on the entire Grand Strand? And we'll dig in and look at what's happening also in terms of the new numbers, in terms of new pending deals. What's happening? We had like a little bit of an adrenaline shot into the market the past 2 weeks, which has been great after a slight slowdown from a little while ago. But we'll talk about what's happening here. One of the things that we did hear, or I heard from some of my friends in other parts of the country, they have seen a little bit of slowdown in some of the bigger markets. Some of that has to do with just some price ceilings people are hitting, also a little bit of buyer fatigue. But they have seen some of that happening here. We're on fire. Our high-end market still very, very good. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, too, also the housing shortage and kind of what that means and, why there actually is a housing shortage. I get this question all the time, and I think it's important to just talk about, okay, what are some of the numbers that lead to that? What are some of the circumstances that's led to that point? And that's why you're seeing, huge jumps in demand. There's just super low inventory, and that's what's driving up these crazy prices. And we'll talk about kind of what's going on. We have some amazing success stories. Our team's been absolutely killing it, burning at both ends in that terms. And I'll talk about one thing. I think that's a great analogy. I get this a lot. We've been doing a lot of high-end stuff, and I got the question about, how do you find high-end buyers? And I gave this great analogy that, finding high-end buyers is a lot like deep-sea fishing. And we'll talk about what that means and how that is, and it's so true in terms of that. Some very, very interesting news in the world of real estate, just kind of all over the place about what's happening with new contracts per week. And also, we had a spike in inventory here, which we'll talk about what that means. And also, a few horror stories. We've seen some horror stories lately, specifically to do with appraisals. They're coming in short. We had Joe on the show last week, too, and he mentioned one of the stories. But I've seen about 4 different stories this week where the appraisals didn't come in correctly. They weren't combated correctly. We even have a template we created in the office that we use to combat appraisals, because what we do is you find there's some type of error. Many times the appraiser is done. You can get that into a secondary review appraisal and help make sure that you're there in person to get that value corrected. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what's happening right now and how that's really hurting a lot of homeowners, and even hurting buyers. We have buyers right now who want to buy, but the appraisal is not there, so they're not able to close on that property. So if you want to know more, right, reach out, call us anytime. The number is 843-808-SOLD. You can always go to blakesloan.com, but we got a lot of great stuff here on today's show.
You do. Hey, for any new listeners, let's just give you a quick update on who this guy Blake Sloan is. It's an amazing story. Industry leaders who jumped into real estate whiz kit. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal, NBC, Realtor magazine, and many other publications. He has been personally endorsed by Sean Hannity and Barbara Corcoran, and Glenn Beck. One of those by itself is quite the accomplishment, but all together, it's unprecedented. Now, last week we learned a little bit more about you and your team and how they work, and a good portion of your success has come from the trademark system that you've developed to help both your buyers and your sellers in our market. Can you give us a recap quickly on anyone new to the show, on what those are exactly, and a quick overview about how they work, right?
Yes, and I'll tell you right now, and I've talked about this the past, a couple months in the show, but I made a promise a while back on my other show that I'm like, hey, look, here's the deal. I'm gonna make a point to talk about this in every single show because I see it over and over. Had it happen this morning, and told the same story. Very, very influential person, attorney in town, had a multi-million-dollar property I met with that did not sell previously. And I sketched out the difference, and she said, oh my goodness, I've never thought about it like that before. And it has to do with the single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller comes down to one thing only. That thing is the agent you choose, period, right? And it comes down to business model, how they operate. There's a lot of nuances to that. But the reality is in selling a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. If each one's handled correctly, guess what that does? Puts money in your pocket, property gets sold. Anything's handled incorrectly, AKA they drop the ball at any point. That could be anything from the photo quality, the order of the photos, the accent, the actual property. In this scenario earlier, multi-million-dollar property, 40 plus acres, and no drone photography, no drone video. The photos were not high quality. They weren't $1 million quality. So the problem is the multi-million-dollar house, guess what? Did not look like a multi-million-dollar house online. So guess what they had? Very few showings, very few interests, and people didn't even know about it. And it comes down to that's one of the many variables in selling a property. The 118 variables have to be managed correctly, and there has to be a team of people who can manage those simply because it's not possible for one single person to manage all those variables. And so what I did, I was brought into the business and looked at how everyone just did the 3 Ps, right? They promised the world to get a listing, they put it into MLS, and 3, they prayed someone brought a buyer. Meanwhile, they're on the street trying to get the next listing just simply because they're trying to survive. And so I looked at what people did outside real estate and said, man, there's got to be a better way. And I started studying business, and I had a mentor who owned other types of businesses. And we really kind of create a system that's proven and repeatable, that creates predictable results every single time, and ultimately gives our client one single thing: a competitive advantage in the marketplace. And that's what we did. We designed, it's called the Guaranteed Sold System. The only proven system sells twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. I designed it. We trademarked it. We licensed to other agents, other parts of the country. But it's very, very, very important because you have to make sure that the execution happens the right way. And it goes back to, right, if I'm one single agent trying to juggle all the balls of buyers and sellers and marketing and administration and closing coordination, all these variables, it's simply impossible for one person to execute on all those for one property, much less a bunch of different properties. And that would be listings, right? And so what we have to have is you have to have systems, you have to have people, and you have to have technology to help manage those, because otherwise you have one single person that's at McDonald's doing the front register, the drive-thru, and the french fries at the same time. If that was done in a restaurant, the food and experience would not be very good, but people don't question why the experience is not good in the real estate transaction when you hire one single person to do it. And so it could not be more important right now because the market is hotter than ever, and we have everyone in the world getting in real estate, right? You understand why your brand new friend, right, who's only sold a few homes, maybe 4 homes the last year, who works real estate part-time, you can't understand why they're not getting a result. Or worst case, you sell it and just left $30,000 on the table. And I see that literally every single day. And so we gave this example. I told you all the story last week, but I think it's important to talk about in terms of, hey, guess what? If you can sell classic Corvette, there's a way to do that, right? So you have a pristine, amazing classic Corvette, right? You can put the Walmart parking lot and sell it. We told the story last week and the week before, but I think it's so important right now because people think I can sell it myself, or I'm going to give it to my friend because they can sell it, which is right? You don't even need me or need an agent, but that does not mean you're going to sell it for the most amount of money. You have to have some type of system in place to do so. And like I mentioned, you could take that classic Corvette, put it in the Walmart parking lot on 501 and get it sold. But that doesn't mean it's getting sold for the most. And what you want to do is take the classic Corvette and get it in front of every Corvette enthusiast website, every Corvette enthusiast group online, every Corvette enthusiast magazine, and get that exposure so you find one single thing: a buyer that's willing to pay a premium, or multiple buyers who understand the value of what that property is, aka the Corvette. And so that's the same thing we do with your home sale. Most agents do one thing: they put it into the Walmart parking lot. You know what that is in our world? That's the MLS. That's it, right? In our world, I'll show you, we have over 60,000 active buyers. We match them up. We have a marketing system that's bringing in national and international buyers before you ever pick up the phone to call us. And that's the main difference. We'll talk about that. On the flip side, we have one other system. It's called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Get you priority access to foreclosure, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as through the home inspection, to get to the closing table. But just as a summary, the market is so crazy right now. You have to have someone who has two things. Number one, reps, meaning that they've been through this over and over and over. They've seen the ins and outs. They see the pitfalls before you ever get there. Don't go with somebody who sold 3 or 4 homes when you're dealing with your largest asset. And Glenn said that best. And most people put more time in the understanding and doing research on the vacuum they buy versus the real estate the real estate agent they choose. So you owe it to yourself when you're dealing with our largest asset. You deserve the absolute best. And so if you want to know more about that, reach out, call us 843-808-SOLD or blakesloan.com anytime. How much time we got left? Cool. We'll come right back after this quick break. Some great information and some market numbers for you guys.
We'll be right back with more of the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show right here.
My brain's fried, man.
As a real estate investor, I look for sharp agents who really know their market. Agents who do so much business, they can find me the right investor property and sell it for the most money without drama. When I need real estate advice in Myrtle Beach, I call Blake Sloan. This innovative marketing attracts hundreds of buyers every month, which creates more demand for your home, selling it faster and for more money. He guarantees to sell it on your timeline or it will buy it. Only agent I trust, Blake Sloan, and avoid the drama.
And you can't beat that, boy.
My brain's fried, man. I tell you.
Yeah, so you like your Corvette's not worth as much, but you want to put that Corvette in the Barrett Jackson auction.
That's what I
Why
could.
would you not put your
That's my timer. Sorry.
why would you not put your
Barrett Jackson. I can't remember the name of that damn thing. That's why I was trying to remember what it was. In that other one for sure. So the next one, 11 minutes.
yes, sir.
1 second. I'll try to pull one thing up real quick. All right, cool.
Do you
All right.
come back to these questions?
No, we can skip that. That's just in there from last week. Sorry. I'll come back into just a quick market update.
Whoa, stop. Why are you not doing anything for me? Hold on. You guys are not doing anything. I would play too, you know what? Why are you not doing anything?
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Got tons of great information. Specifically, we're going to talk about the market update. That's one thing I want to know. Everyone gets, I get that question the most. Everyone wants to know, hey, what's my house worth, right? This is for most people the largest asset or one of the largest assets they own. And so we want to watch to see what's happening consistently with equity. And we've really had some great news here lately. New records in terms of prices and home sales. We just did have a new record in home sales. Now, there's two ways to look at this, right? One is going to be your rear view mirror. That's kind of what you look at, what most people use across the board. That's properties that's closed. Remember, they went under contract about 30 to 60 days prior to them closing because you got to go through underwriting. You have to get the loan. You have to do all this stuff for most of these deals, which are financing. There's still a lot of cash, which still takes 15 to 30 because they're doing title searches and everything else. So looking at the rear view mirror numbers, they're very good. We just had a new record. at for June's numbers, 790 home sales last month, which is awesome, right? That's up from the previous record, which was April. That was 773. We had a dip in May that was 688, a little bit concerning, but guess what? Back up super strong with 790 home sales, single family last month, which is a 42.1% increase in the amount of homes sold versus same time last year, which is awesome. Now, what that's leading to is obviously an increase in price. We have a new record for median home price, which is awesome. It's up 28.8% at $315,000 even, which is awesome news. Into average sale price up 20.9% at $398,160. We're scraping new numbers here in terms of, obviously set a new record. We did set a new record at $398. Looking back though, if you go to January 2018, it was $244. And so that's a ton of equity in just a short amount of time that people are getting. And it's just something to think about. What I'm finding is homeowners we're talking with are not realizing that their house is worth a lot more than they think it is. And so they're using like an online evaluation tool because they're scared to talk to a real estate agent. And what happens is you definitely need some human valuation in there because there has to be some other nuances that just are not aggregating fast enough to the big companies. And so reach out to someone, reach out to us. You can check online. We have tools online on our website. But ultimately, if you're thinking about it seriously, get some human evaluation and someone who understands the data and how to make decisions, right? Because I can use the windshield data, which I'll talk about in a second, to help me gauge my strategy in terms of what we do. Now, here's the key thing. Supply. Supply is down 67.6%, meaning that the amount of homes for sale is down 67.6% from the same time last year. We did have a slight increase this past month, which is actually kind of good for the market. It's at 1.2 months of inventory. Remember last month it was at 1.1, and the month before that was at 0.9 months. If you just think about it, a healthy market is 6 months of inventory. And so we're way below what a healthy market is. Anything below 6 means the seller has the advantage. Now, here's what you got to think about. In terms of supply is down 67%. Sales are up 42%. You can see where the pressure is going. The pressure is on price, which is the lagging indicator. So that some will continue to watch. I do see us continue to see price increase as well. Condos, they're also smoking hot right now. Condo sales up 55.5% last month alone. It dropped slightly from May. It was 842 down to 832 in June. We'll have this month July numbers in next week's show, just because it takes a few days after the first of the month. So we're very, very excited about that. Into sales price, condo sales price smoking hot, up 20.5% at 171,750. That's also a new record number, which is awesome. Average sale price for condos up 24.1% at 208,744. And again, those big jumps are driven by the massive lack of supply right now, down 78.4% from the same time last year, only 1.1 months of inventory. And so it's just very valuable to think about. If you look back at June of last year, there were 5.0 months of inventory. Right now we're at 1.1. And so you can see the difference there and what's causing that and why you're able to have a huge advantage right now if you're a home seller. Now, I want to get to those are the rear view mirror numbers, meaning that's what happened in the past couple months. Right now, I'll look at what's happening under contract, kind of in real time. And so the last 7 days, we have a great new number. If you remember, the peak we tracked of how many new properties go under contract every 7 days. In the lockdown, there's like 300, all the way up to 800 and 900 earlier this year when we peaked out. Then it dropped back down last month into 580s and the low 600s. So that was a little concerning, but right now, we're back up. The last 7 days, as of right now, we've had 741 properties go under contract in our entire area, which is great, for $221 million. And so that's awesome news, because it was concerning there to watch it be only about 500 to 600 per week. Right now, we're getting that jump back up. Now, I think a lot of it has to do with interest rates. We'll talk about that here in a second, but a lot of big, great properties coming through, getting sold in terms of what they are from a volume standpoint. A $2.98 million property, Pawleys Island under contract, and a $2.69 million property on Walkmont Drive in Garden City. And so great news there. Now, the other number we've been watching is how many single family resale homes have been on the market every single week. And if you remember, we were about the 380 or 390 properties for the past month and a half. It dipped into 400. Stay lower 400s, but right now, in the past 2 weeks, you've seen a significant increase. As of right now, a new record since we've been tracking. There's 514 single-family homes for sale right now, which is good, I think, because we needed some. It was kind of hurting buyers because buyers getting fatigued and backing out. But that means they're seeing this short little spike in terms of home sales. Some of that was people feeling more safe. Some of that was people that got vaccines before. Some of that was people who just are finally taking advantage of that market. But we are seeing that, which could mean a little more competition if you wait too long. I just feel if you've been thinking about pulling some chips off the table, right, maybe a great time for two main reasons. Number one, Myrtle Beach is a seasonal market, right? Don't wait till November or October to pull that off and start trying to sell. It's doable. We do it all the time, but you're going to get the most amount when the biggest demand is here, and that's during the summertime and the fall time. We do find that a lot of the mid to higher end properties sell late summer, early fall. They tend to want to avoid the big crowds. And so that's just something that I have noticed just doing this for a very, very long time. But one thing that was important that I noticed is just we may see some softening long term simply because I've been doing this for almost 20 years. And I've learned very, very early on that if I watch what happens in parts of California and Florida, we're usually about 6 to 8 months behind them, and they're seeing some softening in a large way, meaning inventory has spiked. They're seeing days on market take a little longer. And so that's just something we want to keep in mind if you're thinking about pulling some. I don't foresee a significant crash or anything like that at all, at least from a real estate standpoint, unless there's a big outside force such as a huge economic issue. But that's something that you want to keep in mind. One thing that's helping drive this, and like I mentioned, kind of, I don't want to say artificially holding it up a little bit, is interest rates. Last week's show, it was 3.04%, right? Right now, we're at 2.86%, a 5-month low, which is awesome, awesome, awesome. Super cheap money right now. A 15-year fixed rate, 2.27%, which is amazing. An FHA loan, 2.50%. A jumbo loan right now, we just hit a new 1-year low on jumbos, which is awesome. That's why we're seeing so much high-end stuff move right now. A jumbo loan right now, 3.03%, which is awesome. You got to think the high in the past year was 3.72. So almost a full point there back down. And a 5-year adjust rate mortgage right now is at 2.38%. And so great news overall. We're still seeing a lot of buyer traffic, but you have seen this almost as like a shot in the arm, which I think is very, very good for us in terms of kind of watching what's happening. One thing I forgot to mention number-wise was buyer traffic. And so buyer traffic really comes down to showings per listing. Right now, buyer traffic on single-family homes is up 63.9% from the same time last year, which means, guess what? There's a lot of buyers in town who are looking at properties. And obviously, we're having a record year in terms of tourism, having a record year in terms of real estate. And I'm telling you, man, I'm just very bullish on Myrtle Beach because when I talk to everyone, people are hearing about it, people are seeing it, and we're seeing literally hundreds of millions of dollars pump in here from the Northeast. How do I know that? Because we're actually talking to the clients. They're sitting in our office and telling us, hey, we can work remotely now. We're coming down. Hey, we're retiring early now. We're coming down. Hey, we've seen that a lot. We even had a bunch of NYPD guys come down who are retiring early, who are saying, hey, look, we're taking early retirement, and they refer their friend, they refer another friend, which has been great for us. But you are seeing that happen a lot, which is interesting. Now, buyer traffic was averaging 10.0 showings per listing. Again, that's some houses get 50, 60 showings, some get 0. Just depends on that, but that is the average. It's down a little bit from May. May was 10.7, and then April was 11.2. So you kind of see, if you dig into the deep numbers, the buyer traffic did peak a little bit early this year in April at 11.2. Then it dropped 10.7. Then it dropped to 10.0 last month. So keep that in your back pocket from a concern standpoint, just a little bit, which is great. But also in the condos, buyer traffic in condos is awesome, up 46.9% from the same time last year at 7.2 showings per listing. And so that's an option. Also, we have a program. If you don't want to have all those showings come to your house, you can reach out to us. I have a fund that I represent with millions and millions of dollars in it. We can buy it out instantly. You can get an instant offer on your house if you want to. And if you want to know more about that, we'll have to fix it up and you can sell it as is. You can call us 843-808-SOLD. Also, you can go onto our website, which is sloanrealtygroup.net, and just Google Blake Sloan or Sloan Realty Group. Remember, there is a Blake Sloan out there. He's a professional hockey player, or was. So just Google Blake Sloan Real Estate or Blake Sloan at Sloan Realty Group. And remember, it's Sloan Realty Group. There is a different Sloan in North Carolina. That's not us. So if you want to know more about that, reach out. Call us. Save me in your phone, though, 843-808-SOLD, or you can go to our websites, blakesloan.com or sloanrealtygroup.net. Quick break. We'll be right back here in a second.
Oh, you're hitting me on the fly here, brother. Yeah. Look, if you're thinking of downsizing, selling your home, it's a perfect time to call Blake Sloan right now. Get the most money for your major investment, probably the biggest investment of your life. Call Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan Real Estate. We'll be right back with more Blake Sloan Real Estate Show.
Sorry, I was going by the timer.
Yeah,
Oh, there's 12?
I was gonna load up Dress the Flat.
Oh, my bad. So this next segment's what, 10 minutes or 12?
11 minutes.
11, okay.
Yeah. And let me see if I can come back in. All right. So we are going to get to the weekly buyer update, the website, or we?
Yep. And I'll have you do that if you don't mind.
No. Actually, maybe the spike is people are finally getting off their ass and saying, "Hey, we got to get out of here. We got to downsize."
Yeah, I think rates dropped back down, and summertime a little bit. I think early summer, some took a break, and took a trip. And so I think that's just something to think about.
Hey, Myrtle Beach, it's Gary LaVox, lead singer of Rascal Flatts. When I'm Moving On won the award for ACN Song of the Year, I record with folks who understand the challenges that come with life's big changes. For many, that happens when it comes time to sell their home. If you're moving on, you want a real estate agent who will make selling your home easy and stress-free. An agent who's willing to let you out of the contract if you're not happy with their service. That's why in Myrtle Beach, I can tell you that Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group markets your home on a whole different level. Now listen, Blake is so confident in his ability to sell your home quickly and for more money that he guarantees to sell it or he'll buy it himself. If you're moving on, trust Blake to provide your family a stress-free home sale experience. Find Blake Sloan online at blakesloan.com or you can call him at 843-808-SOLD. Start packing.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Got a ton of great more information for you. All real estate, all Myrtle Beach, all the Grand Strand. Like I said, we cover all the way from coastal North Carolina, all the way down south past Georgetown, almost down to really kind of McClellanville area, all the way west, past Marion. So we got everything covered for you. All the data, all the information. We just covered the real estate market update. If you want, we'll come into our hot buyer alert. We got lots of great buyers, and actually showed Glenn a minute ago how many buyers we have. We're up to a lot of buyers in terms of our thing, right? It's pretty crazy. I get this question all the time. Why should I use you versus anyone else? Why should I use you versus anyone else? And the main answer, obviously, on top of the other things we talked about earlier, is that I'm outspending the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. Specifically, though, not just radio stuff here. Where we get the most is that we spend massive amounts of money driving traffic online, tens of thousands of dollars every single month. And we get buyers not just here locally, but from across the country internationally. And so right now, active buyers, we have 62,693 active buyers. Those are buyers with a username, a password, an account. Like, those aren't hits. That's not traffic. Those are real people that are searching. Like right now on this site, I got Jeff from Smithport, PA. Not sure where that is. I got Barry from Myrtle's Inlet. I got Heather O'Neill from Dallas, Texas. Sean and Jessica from Hilton Head Island. I got Bunny from Kodak, Tennessee. I got Scranton, PA, Montrose, PA. Just kind of get, how about this one? Swampscott, Massachusetts. Hey, never heard of that one before. And Kurt Johnson, Washington, D.C. So we get all over, right? We had earlier from Canada, Cleveland, Ohio. And so the reality is we have a massive reach. And so you need somebody. We talked about the difference of looking at, putting your house in the Walmart parking lot. Most agents are simply putting your house in the Walmart parking lot. And, Glenn and I were talking at the break about that, and Glenn brought that up too. It's like there's a big difference taking that classic Corvette and putting it in the Walmart parking lot, or taking the classic Corvette, getting it all that national exposure and having it something like the Barrett-Jackson auction, where guess what you have? People who can afford it, people who see value in it, right? The guy at Walmart probably doesn't see the value in that classic Corvette. Exactly right, and probably can't pay top dollar. So that's the thing about Myrtle Beach, is that you have to be able to extract and find, buyers from other areas, which is what we've mastered. Been doing this since 2005, when people used to make fun of me as being the internet kid, because we dialed into where the people coming from, where they have money. And so the difference, though, everyone asks that question too. Well, how can you do that, right? How can you outspend the average agent 100 to 1? Because it has to do with our business model, right? How most companies operate. I was at the big box stores early on before building a team. And under those big brands, you have 100 to 200 agents who are all independent. They don't care about each other. When I was there, I didn't care about the person across the cubicle from me, and they didn't care about me, right? And so they were trying to take my leads in many cases. I'd say a name and a phone number, and they'd steal it and call them behind my back. And I was like, man, this is a brutal business. But the reality is, with our model, right, we have a team of specialists. So we have 20 plus buyers agents. We have listing partners, inside sales, outside sales. And here's the cool part. We have a team of specialists where each person on the team is specialists that are specialized in what they do. And we all work together in alignment. So our business model has alignment. And so I can afford to spend money to acquire these buyer clients because our conversion is better on the back end. If I was a single agent, spending tens of thousands of dollars every single month to drive traffic, and I had 62,000 buyers, guess what? I'd be out of business. There's just not enough time in the day for one person or even a husband and wife team to follow that many people. But with the model we have, it allows us to be on the phone and make thousands and thousands of thousands, literally, phone calls every single day to allow our team to follow up and make sure that we can help serve those people. And so what that does for you, it just creates a bigger pond, right? I get this question a lot. I know we got a few minutes left in this segment, but here's the thing. This happens a lot with high-end people too. High-end people, they're very affluent, but they have this misnomer, this thing. They think, well, man, you got to live in my neighborhood to sell my house, right? Which is the worst thing you can do, right? Because we had those people last week. She's like, well, we were thinking about this agent in Surfside because he lives in Surfside, knows a lot of people in Surfside. Well, cool. Okay. Well, guess what? I grew up in Surfside. And guess how many people right now buying in Surfside are from Surfside? About zero, right? I mean, there's a couple here that move up, but the majority of them, guess where they're coming from? Out of the area. And you have to be able to have a big enough pond to capture them. That's kind of the best example. Like, man, here's the deal, especially high-end. High-end people will go with the one person who lives in their neighborhood, who sold 4 houses in the neighborhood. Those are only 4 they sold. But what they don't realize is they didn't actually sell them. They just listed them MLS, and another agent sold them and brought the buyer from out of town. They just knew the people that you knew in the neighborhood. And so here's the thing, though. I mentioned this, like, how do you capture these high-end buyers? Well, guess how you do it? It's just like deep sea fishing, right? Just because I live in Myrtle's Inlet, or I don't live there, but let's say I'm from Myrtle's Inlet, that doesn't mean I'm good at fishing or good at deep sea fishing. But people make this assumption that, well, because they live in my neighborhood, they're good. But here's the thing. How do you catch big fish in the ocean? Any idea?
Great bait. And actually somebody that knows where the fish are.
You got to know what you're doing. You got to have a lot of money to be able to go deep sea fishing. And here's the thing. You got to catch a lot of fish. You know, you catch big fish, catch a lot of fish, right? We went fishing recently. It's a great example. We caught all these fish in Key West recently. And guess how we caught 3 or 4 small ones. We caught some ice, some tuna. But guess what? As you're able to, all you're trying to do is catch fish, certain types. Obviously, you can switch up the type you're fishing for. But I mean, of that type, the more you catch, guess what it does? It increases the chances that you're going to catch a bigger fish. And so that's what our ability does, where if I'm 60, plus 1,000 buyers, there's going to be buyers in there who are multi-million-dollar properties who can buy your type. And that's how we're able to do that. But you have to, and we have certain tactics and bait and targets that we're able to do based on, we know who searches each search engine based on demographics. We know all that stuff, and we pour money into all those. But the reality is you have to have someone who can invest enough capital up front on your behalf to actually bring in the buyers that you need versus just having it sit there. And it needs to be a very diversified approach. With us, multiple different search engines. We use all the big portals. We spend massive amounts of money with Zillow. Obviously, then we have multiple radio stations, TV, multiple TV stations, billboards. So all these things have to be able to have the big enough umbrella to bring in the actual, capture enough traffic to get you the demand you need for your property. I think that's one thing that's really is important to understand is that, look, you got to make sure you have enough fish to be able to bring them to your property to actually get it sold. And that's where the frustration comes in, right?
And you're not short-sighted. You're talking internationally.
Yes.
So the United States is rather small to the rest of the world.
And here's,
Your exposure is exposing people's homes to the rest of the world.
and that's where you're seeing we're so dialed into where they're coming from. Certain parts of the country. We just did another great deal with people from Canada. this week. But the difference is a cash deal. But the one thing that you have to have is you have to understand, one, where's the money flowing from? Very, very similar to track that. And now we do track that. But the other thing too is you just got to understand that you've got to have a system and a model in place that allows you to do so, but you can't do that with one single person. It's simply not possible. And so you owe it to yourself, right, to be able to push further, to make sure you're able to understand and say, look, I need more than just one single person who can, try to do all this on their own. And I mentioned before, if you're charged with a crime you didn't commit, I don't want some part-time attorney who did 3 cases last year. I want the absolute best, most aggressive person who's fanatical about details. And you owe it to yourself to have the same exact thing for your largest asset. So really quick, I'm very proud of my team. A couple quick success stories that we're super proud of. Joe Marisha, they're building a new home. And while they can afford to have 2 mortgages for a short period of time, they definitely did not want to. But timing was very important to them. Also, they had to get the most amount of money. And so thankfully, Joe's been listening to our Blake Sloan success stories on multiple radio stations for a long time. Knew exactly who to call first. We came in, designed a custom plan, launched Global Marketing Blitz, professional photos, the virtual reality walkthrough within 24 hours, multiple offers, and a $5,000 above asking price. And we coordinated a closing date for them that matched exactly what they needed so they can do simultaneous close with the old property, the one moving out, and the new property. And we negotiate that for them. Now they can move on, not having to worry about paying 2 mortgages. At the same time, they know they put max amount of equity in their pocket, which is awesome, awesome stuff. And also, big shout out to Guy. Guy owned a townhome in Myrtle Beach that him and his wife used as a vacation home. Recently, they realized they weren't using it very much, and they wanted to cash out at the top of the market, which I think is very, very smart there. He'd been considering selling a townhome, wanted to make sure that he got the absolute most money, and he wanted an easy process as possible. So he didn't want to worry about moving the whole property's furniture out. And so thankfully, he heard about us from one of his neighbors who we sold their property recently. And so we came in, designed a custom marketing plan, launched Global Marketing Blitz, professional photos, the virtual reality walkthrough within 1 week, right? Had to offer $8,000 more than anything he's ever sold for in his neighborhood. We ended up selling the furniture also separately, and all to work around perfectly with his schedule, which has been great stuff for us. So this is one of the many. Our team's been pushing it. I think we're at 650 houses in the past 12 months. We're moving them, right? But through that comes reps and understanding what's happening right now. You got to make sure that you have the insight and the data to make the right adjustments. How much time we got left? None. That's it. All right, quick break. We'll come back here for the last couple segments, and we'll be done. So we got one more. How much time we got?
You will be at 9 minutes. You have 9 minutes and 45 seconds.
All right. I might just freestyle with you at the end if you want to talk about whatever questions, maybe. Is that cool? Because I got about 5 or 10 minutes.
I have a friend that came over on Saturday, and he, told everybody that he's put in multiple offers. He's been beat out on all of them.
Yeah.
He's in a home now. He's going to settle on in 3 weeks. Maybe he's looking for a place to rent or buy.
Mm-hmm.
And every offer he's put in. So the last offer, I don't know how it turned out yet. I don't know tonight. But he put in his best 15,000 over asking price, hoping to snag it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, we'll talk about that worst case. I'll talk about the appraisal thing too. All right, so you ready? Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Last segment here in today's show. If anytime you have any questions, reach out to us. Our team's always here. We're always here to help. I don't care if it's big, small, whatever questions you have, we're here to serve, right? Been serving here for a long time. I've been in the business since 2005, opened our company in 2008, right before the global financial crisis. And we grew through that. We've learned to get very efficient in that. And we've been able to be ahead from a technology and business standpoint ever since. And also third generation real estate agent, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma, entire family sold real estate. And so one of the few people that's also born and raised here. And so I grew up in Surfside. I went to Soxie High School, played football at Coast Carolina. So anything question wise you need to know about Myrtle Beach or friends, relatives, reach out to us. That's what we're here to do. We're here to serve. And that's one thing that's important. And Glenn and I are talking about the break, some of the challenges you run into. One we've seen a lot lately, literally 3 times this past week, maybe in a fourth, appraisals coming in short. And so we mentioned last week, here's what's happening usually. Appraisals are coming in right now $20,000, $30,000 short. We had one last week, $50,000 we talked about in the show. But what we're finding is what most agents are doing without a lot of experience, they're just accepting that the client's either reducing the price, or the example we had last week that Joe shared was that they just took the house off the market. But the reality is they can actually get it fixed. You can get that done. Here's what's happening. How do I know this? Because we're doing hundreds of homes. We know exactly what's happening. So we've seen it where we've had appraisers who are just super busy. They've got, 5, 6, 7, 8 orders. And behind that one, they're trying to get it done. So guess what they're doing? Drive. They're literally, we have some that didn't even go inside the house. They said they did. That's unbelievable, right? And so what's happened, there's so much county data and computer data and these segmented data from these companies they can buy. They're not necessarily having to, right? They have software that tells you the room measurements, all that stuff. But here's the thing. Most of the time, they're not fully accurate. They don't understand the upgrades. Now, that's not typical all the time, but it does happen, right? So even then, so here's a perfect example. We had one last week that was 20,000 short. And we started doing the digging, and the property was in Surfside. And the appraiser, who was just, we haven't really seen much from them before, they start using properties that are 20 miles away in North Myrtle Beach and these other areas that are not similar and are not comparable neighborhoods. And so we've created a system and a framework where we're able to go back if they're making mistakes, and we find out the holes and we dispute that appraisal. When you say, look, here's the deal, we recommend a secondary review appraisal based on this, and this, and it blows your mind. It's like reading a different language, so to speak. You got to know what to look for, what problems are to look for. And so we did that, and we went basically just long documents, line by line, disputing what the problem was. And here's what I found. The appraiser will not change their price. Why is that? Because it admits they are wrong, right? And so you have to go back to that lender in that scenario, and you have to say, look, here's what we found. Sure, they're a great appraiser. They may have been just too busy, but in this scenario, this measurement was wrong. This comparable was wrong. There's actually 3 other comps that were similar. And what is we're requesting a secondary review appraisal through somebody else. And the key then is you got to make sure you're able to meet them there and understand that, hey, here's the property, here's the upgrades, and make sure they actually stop. They go on the property, you meet them there. If your agent's lazy, guess what? They're probably not going to go there and do all those steps that have to be done. But you can find that data and find those upgrades that most of them are missing that helps you make that information up, especially when you find a comp, because it does come down to some adjustments of comps and price per square feet. There can easily be a $15,000, $20,000 swing in each comparable if you have someone who knows what they're doing. And so you have to really fight that right now. I mean, we're finding, does it harder for the deals? Absolutely. But that's what our job is for our clients. And we're literally doing that multiple times per week on both sides of the transaction. And so specifically where I find the most value is from sellers, because you're trusting the agent knows what they're doing. You're trusting the agent is getting their part. But what they're doing is trusting the appraiser actually has enough time and actually cares, right? And I know a lot of great ones, and the ones I know do very, very good, but I also know a lot who are overwhelmed, who have way too much going on. They're trying to keep up. They're trying to refinances on top of that. And the reality is there needs to be some type of accountability to help them and make sure, hey, look, by the way, here's an easy cheat sheet with the upgrades. Here's an easy cheat sheet with exactly what we did to it. Oh, yeah, by the way, here's the most 3 recent comparable comps. Here's the other 3 comps that sold. And so that's what you have to have somebody that can go to bat for you and help you through that scenario. We've been able to make that one this past week, $20,000 more dollars. They ordered another second appraisal. Guess what happened? They used the right comps, had a better appraiser who understood the market. And what we're seeing now sometimes is they're bringing in appraisers from other areas who aren't even from here and understand the dynamics of the market here. So let's say I'm in, let's say I'm in Nichols, or I'm further inland or towards Florence. That's a totally different market than it is in Myrtle Beach. Slower pace, less transactions, less price per square foot. And so there's just different things that are important that you got to make sure that someone's going to bat for you and that you're able to have that. But right now, I'll tell you, every deal is a fight. Every deal has to have that. But if I'm brand new, if you're brand new and represent trying to navigate this, very, 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 very difficult. And that's just something that's important. You mentioned the same thing. What, a friend of yours having a challenge too?
Trying to find a property that fits him, and either he can rent or buy to own, and every offer he put in, he failed on.
Yes.
I said, call Blake Sloan. We had a discussion on Saturday night.
I'd say we have this, we train 5 days a week in our office, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning. 9:30 is our team meeting from 9:30 to 12. And on Thursdays, we have 2 separate trainings at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. Why is that? Because you have to be able to navigate what's happening right now in the current market. But one of those challenges, we spend a separate meeting on Thursdays from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, is how to get offers accepted for our clients. And so we do so many of those. I mean, we had 25 deals last week that closed. So that's a lot of deals, right? So what happens when you do that, you understand the nuances, what works and what doesn't work. And so what's happening, we're making sure we first of all, you have to have an agent who's going to tell you the truth. Like, hey, by the way, this property has 6 offers on it. If you're not $20,000 above asking price, you might as well hang it up. You have to have the experience to do so, right? And so we're having a lot of people who are calling our office. There were buyers that were angry they didn't get it. Let's say it's $200,000 house. And they're like, man, we're mad. What happened here? Did you guys submit an offer? Like, well, what property was it? Oh, yeah, you offered $195. The other guy was at $235. Oh, yeah, he was cash too, right? And so it does matter. But you know what they say every time? Well, I would have paid more if I knew. And so a lot of times, one, the agent doesn't understand that, or two, they don't have the ability to collide and tell them the truth and say, hey, look, I'm going to like you a lot. I care about one thing, which is the outcome. We're going to pay a lot more money for this property for you to have a shot, right?
You need to make your best and final offer first.
Up front, yes.
In this market, if you don't make your best and final the first time out, chances are you're not.
Exactly. And oh, yeah, by the way, here's the data to support that, right? Most people are just telling them, right? They're not showing them. And that's something we train on a lot. But here's what we do. So we have very, very reputable lenders. You need a reputable local lender that's very helpful, because if they see a pre-approved some guy from New Jersey, but then the other one's here locally and you're the same price, they're going to pick the one that's local because they just seem to be more trusting. It's just how people are, right? On top of that, what we're doing is we're having the lender reach out and call them and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Listing Agent, I want you to know this buyer is very solid. We've already pulled their credit. We've already verified income. We all this. So you don't have to worry about this falling through. We also put all the breakdown of why they offer what they did. We'll make it very simple. And then we're also doing a letter from the buyer to the seller about why they love their house and why they think it'd be a great fit. And so we've had a great success in helping our clients. We had one this past week who got an offer accepted on the buy side, Whitney, who's awesome on our team. She got an offer accepted versus another offer that was higher than hers. You know why? The seller really resonated with the letter that we sent that detailed how the house connected with her story, and the seller literally cried based on the connection and picked the offer that was Whitney's over a different offer that was higher in terms of money because of that connection to that homeowner and what it made important. So you have to hit all the bases right now. If your agent doesn't do that, or you don't have someone that's doing that for you, you're up against people. And here's the thing: if the average agent sells 4 homes a year, they don't know any better. And so it's very important to do the right things in the right order and package it in the right way where it's simple. We're getting contracts on multiple offers right now where the agent didn't even fill out the contract, but the buyer doesn't know that. And so if we get an offer and we got 4 offers and 2 of them aren't even filled out correctly, do you think that we're going to advise the seller to take that one? So probably not. That they have like 4 blanks in that contract, right? So let's go with the one that seems to have their stuff together to maximize that and make it better for you. So the bottom line is, and we're coming about 40 seconds left, here's the deal. You or anyone you know that wants to navigate this current market, you can't get away with just going through the motions. You deserve the absolute best representation. It's one of your largest assets. If you want to know more, reach out, call us, 843-808-SOLD. I can't say it enough because I see so many horror stories, just like your friend, who rides that emotional roller coaster for week after week after week. You don't deserve that, right? Get somebody who can be upfront, direct with you, that knows the market and is willing to tell you the truth. You want to know more? Reach out, call us, 843-808-SOLD, or go to blakesloan.com. Anytime, we'll be here and see you here next week.
Thank you, Blake. We'll see you next
Thank you.
time on the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show right here on Call.
Thank you, buddy. Our brain is fried, man.
What's that?
Our brain's fried.